Okay, hi class. So this is a little video about using the resources that the DVC Library offers you for this paper, which is required, by the way. I really want you to use the databases that the library gives you access to. And we got a little taste of that with SA2. I asked you to use CQ Researcher or Gale Virtual Reference, and we're going to go beyond that, and that's what this video is about here. So you can see the full range of stuff available to you through the DVC library. So first, let's go to the library webpage. You can obviously get there from the DVC website or just Google DVC library, or it's very easy, dvc.edu/library. And the first thing that you will see is a search bar right in the middle. And of course that we went down here last time, but this is really the easiest, best place to start. You can start with one search, which searches everything. And so I think that's a good place to start, where you can do articles, books, and ebooks. And now there's even a streaming video search. So the best way to start any research project is with some background research. And what that means is just gathering what it sounds like, background information. And so I've decided that I will be writing about ACT UP, which we've been talking about, and that's going to be my focus. So background research would really just start with finding out information about ACT UP and gathering some sources that give me some general information. And you can see that this will happen with some topics, not all topics. You've got this research starter, start your research. And you can see it comes from an encyclopedia. And this is perfect for background research. Now, I might not actually use this in my essay, okay? That's really important. Research entries are helpful to get a little bit of information, but you can see it's not very detailed. And that might not be the best source for my research paper, but it's a really good place to start. And what I'm going to do here, that's kind of the next thing I have on here. You want to collect your sources so you don't lose them because it can be hard to find things again. So I want to collect this. And I could just take this link here, but you will find, and this is really important, that these links will not always work for you. So you've got to come down here and click on the permalink button and get that permalink. Okay? You got that? Permalink, and you want to copy that. And I have just created a Google Doc, sources for ACT UP essay, and I'll just call this research starter. Can't type right now. Jeez. Research starter. Okay. And there it is. All right. So that is to collect this. The other thing that's really nice about the research starter, in addition to providing a little bit of information, is that often they will have a bibliography. And let's see. One thing I notice on here is this website, Jim Hubbard and Sarah Schulman, ACT UP Oral History Project. And there's a link here. Let's look at this. Okay. It's a collection of interviews with surviving members of the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power New York. Wow, this is going to be great. Okay, so this looks totally fantastic. So there's a set of interviews here, and they're here, and I've actually looked at this website before, spoiler alert, and this is a kind of old website. I believe that the videos may not work anymore because it's such an old website. But there are transcripts of these interviews, and it's a lot of material to work through, but that just seems like really potentially useful. So here This is a regular URL. I'm going to put that in my document too. Okay. Where's the library? Okay. So let's go back to my search results. And you can see there's some things that have nothing to do with ACT UP because those are pretty common words. But then there's some other stuff that maybe does have to do with ACT UP. I could, to make it, you see I've got 579,000, and I might want to narrow my results. One thing, publication date starting in 11/23, that's a little old. ACT UP didn't exist until 1987, so let's start there. And that doesn't change much. That didn't change much. I still got a lot of results. So I could put in ACT UP AIDS to make sure we're talking about ACT UP exactly. And yes, that lowers it substantially. So that's really good. I can look for books if I want, and the library has a lot of ebooks. And so there are some books here that might be really useful. And so far these are print books, but then you have ebooks like this, which might be really useful to me. Now, that's just to kind of get background, but I have come up with a research question. And the research question that I have decided on was in the on the previous page, and it is about this. It's about polarization. Was polarization advantageous or detrimental to the success of ACT UP? And so that's a term comes from the book, of course. So I might be tempted to just like add the word polarization here. And of course, the word polarization, while it's used in this book, This is an Uprising, is not a common term. It's a key term the authors use, but it's not a term that's maybe going to come up in other research. So how could I search for this concept of polarization? What if I tried the word controversy? That's a more common word. And I don't know if this will be useful, but it's not. It's not useful. Okay, so controversy wasn't helpful. I haven't found a lot of stuff doing that. But you might do that. That's a possibility, is to add kind of key terms to narrow in your focus, especially if you're doing something that has a lot of sources attached to it, like say, Gandhi or Martin Luther King, or a movement that has been written about a lot. You're going to want to narrow in with these kinds of terms. This isn't helping me so much here, so I'm going to need to get a little more creative. And I might need to go back to the documentary, for example, and put in search for some news articles about certain specific events, and I would like to actually show you that. So if I go to A to Z list of databases back on the front page of the library here again, we have under N, the New York Times Historical Index, which is a really interesting place to go to get news from the past. And you'll see that you'll have to log in. And it'll load. Okay. All right. And from here, this will just search old news sources. And so let's see what I find here. Rude, rash, effective. And that, as it turns out, is very appropriate for my question about polarization, because this is about how polarizing they're. I mean, I can tell just from the title, they're rude. That is polarizing. That is polarization. So again, I want to look for a, uh, a permalink if possible. Let's see. Do I see a permalink? I don't see a permalink, but I can download the PDF here, and I'll do that. You can also email it to yourself, and I'll do it that way. Maybe I'll try saving this link. I don't know if it will work, but I'll try to add that to my document as well. Just say rude, rash, and effective. Okay. All right. So this is the basic idea here is to using search terms to narrow your results. Another thing that's really helpful for me, in my case, I'm using an example that's in the book, which you can do, but but I would love for you to go beyond the book as well. Okay, if you do use the book, you want to go beyond what's in the book. That's very important. But that said, if you do use something from the book, something that can be really helpful is to go back and look at the notes at the end of the book, and you can look at all kinds of sources that are here, and there might be some interesting things that you can then find as well. Another way to go is to get really creative, and I remember in another documentary I saw, I remembered that there was this protest or this AIDS conference that they went to in Montreal, and they brought this report with them, and it seemed like a really important moment, and it was a polarizing moment, but it was an important moment. And so I couldn't remember what it was called, so I just searched for ACT UP Report Montreal, because I remembered that is where the event took place. So I'm looking here, I'm going down, and oh, I see, and I remember this is what it was called. 25 years ago, ACT UP's AIDS treatment research agenda. And there it is. That's the image I remember seeing. And this is a little blog post about it. And I got really lucky here. There's even a PDF of this old report from 1989. How cool is that? And so here, again, this is what would be called a primary source, which I found by using Google, but by being a little bit creative in searching for something really specific, not just searching for ACT UP, but for something specific that I knew I wanted. Okay, all right, so you got to get creative here, using lots of terms, lots of different methods to find what you want. That's kind of the bottom line. And that's in-depth research, and we've been doing that already. Now there's one final important thing I want to say, which is that if you look at your research prompt, I am asking you for a variety of sources, and I'm not really saying what that means exactly, but I do expect you to look for academic sources, journal article sources. So how do you find that? Let's go back to this, the larger search term, ACT UP. So, oh, and I did ACT UP AIDS to filter out the other stuff. Okay. And I do want to mention that you will find these research guides, for example, aren't considered academic sources, even though it comes from the library. An academic source is really a journal article, which is published for really just for academics. And they're called peer-reviewed. And the easiest way to do this is to use that one search bar. You could use the articles. In fact, let's try this. And this is just not searching for books, but searching for articles. And you'll see a lot of the things that will come up have this icon next to it that says academic journal. That's good. That's what we want. So there are a lot here. There's 1,400 to look through. And in fact, I can just filter. Some of these will be there are articles, but not academic articles. If I just want to look for academic articles, I can also check this box here. And I'm finding a lot of interesting stuff. So if I wanted to use the impact of AIDS activism, there's some great stuff here. This is looking really good. But if I needed to narrow my search results, I could add some key terms here to do that. All right. As you go, of course, collect your research. I usually scan quickly as I'm doing the research and then kind of go back and read more in depth once I've got lots of sources. And then at some point you got to start writing too. But this I hope will help you get your annotated bibliography done. You want to try to identify the sources that seem like they're going to be really useful to you. And I know you might not know before you get started, but the idea behind the annotated bibliography is to dive in and get into it. All right, I really look forward to seeing those annotated bibliographies. I know it's a little bit of a pain in the butt assignment. I will acknowledge that. But I hope you find it will really move you forward in your research.